Hi, everyone. Hi, and thanks for your time, colleagues. I think some other colleagues who agreed to join us today may join later. Let's save our time. Thanks for all. You'll be surprised. I'm under the nickname Olga Machalova. We are sharing the same account. I'm Arsen Nazarian, co-founder of Green Growth Alliance NGO, partner at Nexia Armenia, and ESG advisor. It's an honor for me to introduce today's seminar. To start it, our organization called Green Growth Alliance is in collaboration with GRESB is pleased to invite you to an introductory session on the global real estate sustainability benchmark. Very important topic, very timely, I'll say. And we're really honored today to have with us GRESB representatives Anna Ornik and Tom Ducker. Hi, Anna. Hi, Tom. And I'll introduce you a little bit later. Let me first start with the background story. Quickly, our NGO, GGA, was established in 2024 to promote and support sustainability, ESG, and sustainable business approaches, especially in infrastructure, building section, international green building certification issues, implementation of ESG approaches, and access to sustainable green finance. We do this seminar as a kind of one of the mains of our knowledge transfer. This is part of our knowledge transfer obligation and responsibility. And in today's session, in collaboration with GRESB, we'll do kind of joint activity to represent you today's topic. Those who don't know, GRESB is a globally recognized ESG benchmark for real estate infrastructure, for data centers, and other real estate assets. It is widely used by institutional investors, asset managers, developers to assess and improve sustainability performance. For me personally, honestly, GRESB is about the resilience of real assets. As an industry partner with GGA, who are partners, we support organizations in understanding the framework, preparing for the assessment, and using GRESB participation to improve transparency, credibility. During today's session, quickly, we'll explore four main topics: GRESB real estate assessment and upcoming new demand for data center assessment, how the GRESB framework supports transparency, benchmarking, and performance improvement across real estate portfolios, how the new data center assessment is designed to address the unique sustainability challenges and opportunities of digital infrastructure for entities based in our region, how GRESB helps improve ESG performance, transparency, and investor engagement. And most importantly, we'll have some time and opportunity to ask questions and discuss certain real-life implementation challenges, especially for our market. Now, let me quickly introduce our respectable speakers. Anna Olnik is the Director of Real Estate in EMEA region at GRESB. Previously, she had a successful track record in the co-management of multi-billion euro real estate portfolios for leading asset management companies such as BNP Paribas Asset Management and Kempen Capital Management, where she led the implementation of ESG standards in the real estate investment process. Anna holds Master of Science degree in Real Estate Investments from the University of Lodz and Master's degree in Global Challenges from the University of Edinburgh. She's passionate about finding solutions to poverty, inequality, and underinvestment in low-income countries. Anna aspires to create a demonstrable impact to fight climate change. Tom Ducker, our friend, is the Business Development Director for Infrastructure at EMEA region. He has over a decade of experience in institutional sales and client relationship management, with the past 7 years focused on ESG and sustainable investment. Tom has the senior He had the senior roles as Morningstar Sustainalytics, Gresham House, and M&G Investments, working primarily across UK and other developed markets. Thank you, and now floor is yours, colleagues.
Thank you for the warm introduction, Arsen. I will share my screen. Please do confirm that that's come through.
Yes, now we can see it. Perfect. So I will start the presentation, and Tom will be clicking. So let's see how smoothly we will be able to do it. So Arsen, thank you so much for the introduction. I think you have already captured a lot about what we will be talking about today. And Tom, on the next slide, there is going to be the agenda. So we will be talking about 3 of our products: the GRESB Real Estate Assessment, the GRESB Infrastructure Assessment, and then we will also talk about the GRESB Data Center Assessment, which is now being piloted. So when we go to the first slide, we can just talk more about GRESB. So Arsen, you did a great job explaining what we are in a nutshell. So let's talk a little bit more about the history. So GRESB was set up in 2009 by pension funds. We were set up by 2 pension funds in the Netherlands and 1 in the UK. And those 3 pension funds wanted more transparency about ESG practices in the real estate space. So they teamed up with some academics and they came up with a questionnaire with questions about ESG. This questionnaire became the annual GRESB assessment. As you can see, a lot of things have changed since 2009. We started new products, but the core idea of GRESB is still around that questionnaire. And the questionnaire opens only once a year. On the next slide, you will see the timeline. So every year, on the 1st of April, every year, so in 2 weeks, we will open the 2026 questionnaire, and our participants will have 3 months to answer all the questions. So real estate participants are companies who own or develop real estate assets. So own or manage, develop assets, or develop assets. And so as long as your portfolio owns one asset or develops one's assets, you are also already eligible to do GRESB. So 1st of April, we open the questionnaire. 1st of July, we close the questionnaire. And during that 3 months, our participants will log into the online environment and answer all the questions which are already on our website. So they are known in advance. On the 1st of July, we close the questionnaire and then we step in. We collect the data, we validate the data, we score the results, and we provide our participants with peer benchmarks. The preliminary benchmarks are released on the 1st of September, and that's the time for you to see if everything is correct. You can also challenge some of our validation decisions. And on the 1st of October, the final benchmarks are released, and that's the time for you to share the benchmarks further. The benchmarks are yours. In a way, what I'm trying to say is we do not publish the results. The first step in the GRESB assessment is signing an NDA, which says everything that you report to us and the final benchmark report belongs to you, which means that you decide if you would like to share the benchmarks further, or you would like to just use it internally, perhaps in the first year, just to strengthen your processes and perhaps make some internal decisions to improve that benchmark before you are ready to show it outside. But many of our participants, or most of our participants, actually do GRESB because they want to show off and they want to show the results further. On the next page, you will see some of the investor members that are with us today. So you remember at the beginning when I mentioned that we started with 3 pension funds. Today, we've got around 120 investor members, so who are officially investor members of GRESB. They have access to the portal and they can request the benchmark reports via the portal from you. There are also institutions who are not officially GRESB members, but who are using GRESB reports. And I would like to welcome, I see Kostas from EBRD here on the call today. Maybe that's also an example of an organization who is incorporating ESG inside of the investment process. And for the real estate or real assets part, because I know that EBRD also is looking at our infrastructure assessment, at least they get inspired with some of our questions and would like to see how our participants are responding to those questions. So that's our participants on the real estate side. we started with around 200 portfolios. Today, or maybe last year in 2025, we had almost 2,400 assessments. And maybe the difference between GRESB and anybody else is that GRESB assessments are done on a portfolio level. And by portfolio, that's can be the whole organization. So if you're a listed company, then it's the whole organization that is GRESB participant. If you run listed, non-listed funds, then it's going to be the funds. But we also have private developers, private organizations who are also using doing GRESB on the portfolio level. So we are not a building certificates. Actually, we are not even competing with building certificates. We cooperate with BREEAM, LEED, with EDGE. We are trying to come up with the same definitions for the same problems because we are solving different parts of the puzzle for organizations. So half of our participants still come from Europe, and we can see that other regions are growing fast for us as well. We do not currently have participants from Armenia and Georgia, but we do have participants. The Central and Eastern European markets have been growing for us very quickly. We have been growing very quickly in Greece as well, where we already have, we started having our first participants only 3 or 4 years ago, and now we already have a handful of participants. We are also growing in the Middle East. So with ADIA being our investor member there, and then we also have new participants, especially in Saudi Arabia and the Emirates, joining every year. And you can see the largest sector today is residential, which took over office a couple of years ago as the largest sector within GRESB. So Tom, on the next slide, you'll see that it is sometimes scary to do GRESB, to approach the questions for the first time, especially when you know that you are the first company in Armenia or Georgia who will be reporting. But that's where we started. So we always had the first company from Greece. We had our first participant from Serbia. We had our first participant from Lithuania a couple of years ago. Those companies joined knowing that they will be benchmarked against companies from outside of their region. And that's exactly what they wanted, because they wanted to demonstrate that they are playing in a different league immediately. So that was a brave step for those companies to make. They approached those questions and they started improving year over year. And then when we have the first and the second company in the region, then you will see more companies in that region also joining, because they just want to also show that they are not lagging behind the leaders. But you can see in this graph, it normally every year at GRESB you improve. So the longer you wait, the longer it takes to catch up with the leaders. And in the end, GRESB is not a test. There is not a pass or fail score. We are a benchmark. The most important thing when you commit to GRESB, the commitment to GRESB is the commitment to the annual improvement. You can start with maybe 20 points out of 100. That's perfect. As long as in the second year, you get 40 points out of 100, which is great. You doubled. And then in the third year, I want to see you somewhere in the 70s and 80s. Tom, on the next slide, we will show maybe our role in the ecosystem. So you can see we have become the middleman. On the one hand, on the right-hand side, you can see real estate companies reporting to the GRESB annually via in the real estate assessment. And then we collect the data, validate the data, we provide a benchmark report back to that company, and the company can share the benchmark further, for example, with institutional investors. Sometimes it's joint venture partners. Sometimes it's internal stakeholders. So the list of companies of final benchmark recipients is not only institutional investors, it's much broader. It's everybody to whom you would like to demonstrate your progress on ESG. And maybe the last slide here in this part is how the questions are created. The GRESB questions are, or the GRESB standard is set at an organizational level called the GRESB Foundation. This is a non-profit organization in the Netherlands. That's where our investors, participants, and experts in the field sit together to discuss, to decide what questions we are asking about, and what direction the survey is going to take in the future. So when you look at the GRESB questions, which are on our website, and I know Olga is going to send the email with the GRESB standard, with the GRESB questions after the call, you will see that's where the industry wants you to be today. So by approaching those questions, you will see that's right. That's where the brains from the industry decided that that's where the real estate companies, what kind of questions the real estate companies should be approaching. So that's it when it comes to the GRESB, just the fundamentals of GRESB. And let's take a little bit of a deeper dive here in the first assessment, which is the real estate assessment. And there are a couple of options. So if your company owns and manages real estate assets, this is the first scenario for you. In this case, there are two components you can select. If you combine the management and the performance component, we'll provide you with a benchmark for standing investments. That's one benchmark. In the second scenario, if your organization is a developer, so Tom, it's the next one. Super. In the second scenario is you are a developer, maybe very pure developer. There are two other components you can combine, the management and the development component, and we will provide you with a benchmark for development. So it's a different benchmark. If you have both, and there are many organizations who have both, that's the third option. You can just answer all three components, and then you will receive two benchmarks with two different peer groups. And the fourth option is purely for residential portfolios. You remember from one of the first slides, residential is now the largest sector within GRESB. And then in the residential component, we look at items like affordability of housing, local infrastructure. So this is, if you add the residential component, you will receive, next to the standing investments benchmark, you will also receive an insight report only for the residential sector. Perfect. And here are the three components that you are making your selections from. The management component is about policies, governance, leadership. So we will ask for things like who within the organization is the most senior person responsible for ESG? How are they incentivized? Do you already have policies on ESG? And do you already tackle climate risks? Do you incorporate aspects of biodiversity? And so on. In the performance component, we will ask you to list all the assets. And then we will ask you for water waste, greenhouse gas emission, and energy. And then we will start looking at how efficient your portfolio is. And in the development component, we will ask for things like how do you source the site? How do you source the materials? We ask for embodied carbon life cycle assessment and building certificates, for example. On the next slide, you will see, so these are the two benchmarks, the two standard benchmark, the benchmark for standing investments, again, for companies who own and manage assets. And then you can see the management component is 30% of points. The performance component is 70% of the points. And in the development component, in the development benchmark, so Tom, the next one, you can also see this time management is again 30%, and the 70 remaining percent come from the questions from the development component. And now the next slide is what you will get from it in the end. This is just a snapshot. And we will be very happy, Tom and I, to schedule, if you reach out to us, if we are happy to schedule one-on-one meetings with you so that we can talk in depth through some of the aspects we are asking about in the assessment, but we will also show you in depth the GRESB benchmark report, because the benchmark reports are over 100 pages long. That's how detailed we go. For every question, so first of all, there is what you can see at the top. We give you a score out of 100. It's going to be a number out of 100. We will tell you how you are doing versus your peers. We will select a peer group for you, which you will be able to adjust. And then going forward, we will show you all the questions we are asking about, and we will show you how your response compares to the response of your peers. And that's where you will be able to start making progress, because you see what the aspects are that are the priorities for similar companies of yours. So why to join GRESB? Why companies? Why our participants bother every year to log in to GRESB. Over the years, what we have seen is that we prepared our participants to collect the ESG information in a standardized format. And that information was used not only for GRESB, it's later used for reporting. For example, for external reporting, or internal reporting. It can be also used increasingly for regulation. So you know that regulation is catching up in every part of the world, but GRESB participants have always been ahead of it because we've been doing this exercise ahead of regulation for a very long time. And ultimately, since many of the benchmark reports end up on the desk of institutional investors, we are talking about lower cost of capital immediately. And there are a few studies on our website showing that just participation in GRESB already improves the cost of capital. And obviously, if you are progressing on GRESB, that cost of capital may further be reduced. And for institutional investors, again, so that's the next point, Tom. Perfect. Since investors have been the information takers from the beginning, from the setup of GRESB, we also help them understand what all the companies do on ESG. We help them we provide them with standardized information on ESG, and we help them interpret the information so that the information can be used further in discussions about if or not to provide capital and at what cost. That would be my part. So Tom, I'm happy to give floor to you.
Thank you very much, Anna, and thank you, Arsen, for the warm introduction. So thank you for having me on the webinar today. Today I will be speaking to you about the GRESB infrastructure assessment, which is a second business line we have to complement real estate. You saw from the opening slide that it came into GRESB in 2016. I'll also be talking to you about a new sector-specific data center assessment and the details around that launch. So I suppose to kick off, a bit of an overview, much like our real estate assessment, we offer 4 different assessments. One at the fund level, which is suitable for fund managers and investors that are investing directly into infrastructure. We also have 2 asset level assessments, really focusing on companies that are, well, infrastructure companies and asset operators, really drilling down and looking at that operational performance data. In 2024, I'm happy to report that we launched our development asset assessment, really responding to feedback from the infrastructure community that they wanted to capture the more material areas when it came to that development and construction piece. So really with an added focus on procurement, materials, planning, all the elements that are involved for, I suppose, suitable for those greenfield pre-operational assets as well. Finally, I'm happy to report we are launching a sector-specific data center assessment, really responding to the growing demand in the space. And I will go on to give some more details of that in due course. However, we have designed it so it is suitable for all of the players in the ecosystem, from your developers to investors to sole operators. Hopefully we've captured all of the sustainability material areas of the asset lifecycle. Again, just to talk a little bit about the structure, again, much like our real estate counterpart, we have for the fund assessment, just that management component. So again, who do we have in terms of leadership resource in place? Do we have the right policies covering the right things? Are we, honoring the commitments we've made in those policies? Do we have the right reporting mechanisms in place, the right risk management tools, focusing on the right areas? How are we engaging our stakeholders, and what targets have we put in place, and how are we monitoring our performance against those targets? Again, on the asset level assessment, we have that management component, but also the performance component. Again, looking at that operational performance data around energy waste and GHG emissions, but also looking at implementation, that output and impact as well. As I've already mentioned, for the development asset assessment, really focusing in on those, I suppose, design and build components. So with an added focus around materials around site selection, around aspects such as contractors as well. So how do we, where are we today? I suppose I'm very happy to report that we have managed to continue to grow the infrastructure benchmark despite deteriorating macroeconomic conditions, rising ESG headwinds on a global basis. And I'm happy to report that we have over 140 funds representing over 800 assessments and assets across 41 sectors and 87 markets as well. As you can see, Europe continues to lead the way when it comes to overall participation. And from a sector perspective, we have greatest participation in renewable power and transport, but also seeing significant growth in that data infrastructure piece as well. So that's a bit of background, a bit of an overview to the infrastructure assessment. As I said, very happy to report a new piece of product development. And we've created a new sustainability standard for data centers, really responding to the market need for a lack of, I suppose, sustainability framework in the space that really captures the nuances that this sector that has. So, look, I'll speak a little bit today about the problem and the genesis for the creation of the new framework. I will give a bit of background to the successful pilot exercise that concluded at Q4 of 2025. And then I'll talk a little bit about the solution that we have in place and the timelines for delivery. So I suppose, a bit of background, really. So we heard from a number of our existing clients that they were investing in data centers, but for the time being, neither the infrastructure nor the real estate assessment was really fit for purpose. As you can see from the chart on the right-hand side, as of 2025, we had actually around 43 entities already reporting data centers across both real estate and infrastructure, split broadly 50-50, which I think gives an indication of the challenges of how this best fits and how best to get the correct information from the assessment. So as I said before, the feedback was that neither assessment is really fit for purpose. Either the metrics didn't make sense or it failed to capture the more meaningful areas of sustainability when it comes to data centers. So again, just to talk a little bit more about the drivers, I think undoubtedly it is the fastest growing growth segment in the industry at the moment. We're seeing CapEx figures in terms of the investment required ranging from 1 to 3 trillion over the course of the next 5 years. As you can see from some of the newspaper articles on the right-hand side. And really, what we saw is, in terms of barriers and opposition, is there were different areas of risk that needed focus. So really around that access to power and management of energy supply, as well as stakeholder engagement and those community aspects as well, from a licensing perspective, for example. So really, we wanted to create a new credible mechanism and standards to assess and communicate value and risk to all the players that were emerging in the ecosystem. So I suppose, how did we go about achieving this? Well, we ran a pilot exercise end of last year and created a dedicated working group chaired by our very own Chris Pike, who leads our innovation team here at GRESB, as well as the Chief Sustainability Officer at Stack Infrastructure, Bethany Brantley. And really, we worked in collaboration with the iMasons Climate Accord and convened over 40 pilot participants. And as you can see from this slide here, we've got some great representation across the full ecosystem, from developers, operators, investors, to give that really 360 holistic perspective. As you can see, there's some really great and reputable names in the space. Meant the feedback we received was really representative of the challenges that those managers, operators, and developers were facing. Again, so from the managers themselves and developers, we asked them to provide sample responses, whilst the investors provided feedback on the core set of sustainability factors. So what did those look like? Really 4 areas that were highlighted as key risks for the data center space. couple that I've mentioned already. So the first is that energy supply, access to power is essential. We've seen how data centers are really challenged to be able to access the grid. We've seen lead times up to 5 years plus. We also want to consider the community element. So, you know, do you have the right license to operate in the space? If it's a densely urban area, these are considerations that require due consideration. We've also got the operational performance element around energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, and water intensity. Obviously, water being key for those cooling technologies. And also, health and safety mentioned as an ongoing business risk. So whilst these, I think, are the 4 material factors that were highlighted across all pilot participants, we also heard other areas as well that require due attention. So one was around biodiversity and nature, you know, how data center development changes that land use, which creates impacts and opportunities for both restoration and protection. We also are considering e-waste and e-management. We know that the hardware is replaced on a sort of 3 to 5 year cycle here. So that, again, managing those material flows was another area that needed to be considered. So what did we come up with? So very happy to report that we have the following new structure for the solution. Again, very much keeping in line with our traditional assessment structure. We have that management component, but with a couple of other additional areas around transparency and certifications. We've got the core modules that I've already mentioned, as well as that operational performance piece, and also a development module as well, where we look at materials development and planning. Slightly divergent from our typical assessment structure, we've also got an optional section around innovation. More than anything, this is to capture what we see as best practices in the space. Obviously, it is evolving, and really we wanted the opportunity to be able to capture what best practice might look like, hence the inclusion of that additional section. In terms of the organizational structure of those modules, very much based on ISO 14001. So really looking at, you know, where is the company going? What strategy have you put in place? Have you got objectives? Have you put targets? How are you going to monitor those targets? Again, what is the role of management in the strategy? What's the responsibility? Have you got formalized processes? How, you know, what is it doing? That implementation element. And also, you know, how are you measuring it? What KPIs are you using? Which performance metrics make sense? So how do we see our clients potentially using this new assessment? Really happy to report that, again, moving away from the traditional, I suppose, assessment cycle that Anna presented early on, in terms of having a portal that opens from April and our participant members have those 3 months to submit their responses. Happy to report that this new assessment will be on demand in nature, i.e., our clients will really be able to leverage it as a risk management tool to improve their operational sustainability performance. Clients will have the opportunity to load as many iterations as they see fit onto the portal, so they can really make those incremental performance improvements over time as well. So again, to stress that as a key USP, that it will be on demand, and really great to see that in place. So in terms of delivery timelines, again, we intend to have our reference guide and scoring methodology released by the end of this month. The new assessment will be available to purchase from the 1st of April onwards. That being said, it won't be until the 1st of July the clients will actually be able to upload their responses. As I said, there'll be no limitations on the number of submissions, allowing for multiple iterations. In terms of the output, clients will receive an insights report within a few weeks of completion. This will have an overall score with component and asset level breakdowns. It's worth mentioning at this point that there is no interoperability with the existing assessment in terms of being consistent. That is on the roadmap for 2027. So for this year, again, to stress, it will be an overall score specifically for data centers with that asset level breakdown as well. From a benchmarking perspective, we aim to have something in place broadly in line with our release date for both the real estate infrastructure assessments, But again, that will be subject to having enough critical mass in the benchmark to be able to draw meaningful comparisons. And I think that's everything. Please, happy to open to the floor for questions. Keen to hear your thoughts and feedback. Arsen, I'll pass back to you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Tom. And yeah, sorry, we have already one question in Q&A box. Please use that. The chat box is not working, but Q&A box is working. No worry. We have already one question, and if you want, I'll read it for you. And then I have my own question, by the way. So yeah, it's about interest of, the question is the following: why investors are interested in GRESB framework?
Perfect. So I'm happy to address this one. So thank you, Anahit, for the question. So first of all, just remember that investors set us up, right? And they continue to be in the driver's seat for what we are asking about via the GRESB Foundation. So the GRESB Foundation board mainly consists of institutional investors. And the reason why we were set up and we continue to be important is because we help understand and collect information on various ESG related risks. So you know how investors' mindset works. There are many risks that need to be taken into account when capital is provided, and the ESG aspects, I don't want to bundle them, but many ESG aspects are the risks investors would like to get some information on. So for example, how efficient the portfolio is. How much transition risk do I take while lending or providing equity capital to this portfolio? How much is physical risk already incorporated? So does the company already consider all those risks that will eventually probably happen to the portfolio? Real estate is very maybe as heavy. So how is the portfolio looking into the cooperation with tenants? Right. So is the building going or the portfolio going to be like obsolete because there are some structural changes making the portfolio unusable in the future? So what we do is we address those risks, and we provide answer in a standardized format, so that investors can understand what all the companies do on certain aspects. They can make their decisions based on this information. And we also provide tools. Since it's an annual assessment, we also provide tools to monitor and engage with the real estate companies on those subjects, on those ESG risks that are important for institutional investors.
Just to add to that, thank you, Anna. I'd say, beyond providing that central repository of accessible information for our investor members, we do have additional tools on the platform that they're able to leverage, a simple data exporter tool, as well as a portfolio analysis tool. So you are really able to extract that granular level data out into Excel format to do that portfolio analysis piece as well.
Perfect. And the next question is from Costa. So I see, Anahit, you said thank you. So I hope we answered your question. Kostas, you have asked about the affordability elements of the residential real estate portfolio. I'm not sure if I can share my screen, but I will send you an email later with the residential supplement and more information about it. So what we introduced last year, also as a pilot, is for residential portfolios can answer another component, which is the residential. We call it obviously the residential component, and this component has a few additional questions. The questions are about fair attribution of housing, local infrastructure, community safety, affordability, affordable housing, and sustainability elements in lease contracts. Only one of those questions, the last one, is actually it's awarded 3.5 points. The other questions are still being defined and basically tightened in terms of definitions by our participants. So last year, we engaged with real estate companies, and we started check in with them how to define affordability, how to score it. And that's a work in progress. Companies who decide to answer the residential component because they have predominantly residential assets, they get an additional, next to the benchmark report, they get the residential insight report. And I'm also happy to share a sample there, where first of all, they will be able to see how their answers on those extra questions compare to the answers given by their peers. But second of all, some other questions change their scoring. So some questions which are deemed less important for the residential sector are given fewer points, and some other questions are given more points. And I'm happy to share the overview. It's on our website, but I will tell you exactly, Kostas, how the residential segment is working. I hope that helps as well. And everybody who is on the call who would like to, again, I would just would like to repeat, we are happy to also follow up with one-on-one calls, even half an hour, just to walk you through the benchmark and indeed answer more specific questions that are more specific for your portfolio.
Absolutely. Thanks, Anna. And yeah, I've forgotten to tell you that this is opportunity for us to follow up because we have limited time and we have learned a lot for the introductory discussion. Yeah, please feel free to contact directly Anna, Thomas, or me, or Olga. As I said, Green Growth Alliance NGO is a partner of GRESB in Armenia, and we'll be delighted to receive your questions later after this discussion via email or directly. Feel free. We are interested to spread this information. By the way, I have my own question. Honestly, this is a question which I hear constantly from entrepreneurs. What are the exact, Anahit Manasyan put a question about why, and the question is which investors, which specific investors might be interested or are already interested in operations in those projects, whether it's data center or warehouses or I don't know, logistics centers, because in food processing, food export, and in the whole logistics sector, which is growing now, including in our region, what are the players in the field, in investor, let's say, list, large or medium, which are already interested to partner with investors, companies, and to use GRESB framework? Thank you.
Arsen, I would like to specify, because the terminology is sometimes used interchangeably. By investors, do you mean real estate owners or do you mean institutional investors? Because we also often talk about, yeah, exactly. So Tom, I think it's one slide up or down. I think it's down, one slide down. We probably talk about this. So what kind of real estate participants we have. So in what sectors our participants have their assets? You can see the first one is diversified. It can be just about anything. So there is non-dominant asset class. We have portfolios concentrated in a specific country, for example, but then investing in different asset classes in this country. The second is residential, then you've got office, and then industrial is number 3 and much ahead of retail. So there are a lot of assets in our database. So 284 means 284 portfolios. The whole Prologis is one portfolio, right? So we can have probably a couple of 100,000 assets. Overall, we collect data on 500,000 buildings through the 400 assessments. So a good chunk of that are actually industrial portfolios. And Tom, do you want to address the data center part?
Sure. Yeah, so I suppose from a data center perspective, we've seen some strong appetite for the new assessment. As I said, we convened 40 of our existing clients across the space, from investors, developers, and operators, to form part of that pilot. Again, to stress that we have around 43 entities already reporting data centers. So we'd expect to have a good critical mass there, very, very early on. I don't think I've got much more to add, really.
Excellent. Thank you, colleagues. Do we have other question in Q&A box? Not.
I would like to ask Anna. I know a response, but I would like that Anna explain a little bit more. You said that green certification is very important for the assessment, but is it obligation to have lead age or others?
Yeah. So here's the thing. So when you answer the GRESB questionnaire, for many questions, we ask for an evidence, right? So if you say you have certain risk procedures, we ask you to upload an evidence, and then we read it, and we certify, we testify that we indeed found this evidence as important and sufficient to answer this question. And building certificates have worked for us as some sort of an evidence that the information that we are asking about for some of the questions has been already verified by an external body. So currently, it's around 8.5 points, I believe, you can get for just if your portfolio is certified. But we do not expect all the assets in the portfolio to be certified. We are a benchmark, so we see this is the number of assets or the percentage of portfolio certified by you. This is the percentage of portfolio certified by your peers. Well, this is you are above or below, right? And then this is a dynamic score. This has been there historically. So what the GRESB Foundation announced is that in 2028, we as GRESB will be able to verify the efficiency of the assets. And that's now we have to come up with definitions and methods, but basically that will mean that we will also revise how GRESB is looking at building certificates. And 2026 and 2027 will be a year for the GRESB Foundation and the working groups to come up with solutions. So that's where we are today, and that's what has been already announced, that there will be a change in 2028 about how we are looking into building certificates. But for now, we do work closely with organizations who provide building certificates. And if you have EDGE, BREEAM, LEED, and many local certificates as well, please, you will get extra points. If there are Georgian, Armenian building certificates we are not aware of, you can also bring them to our attention, and we will evaluate them so that you will be able to get points also by having your assets certified with local building certificates.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Yes. And I would like to share my small experience on the GRESB. I passed my exam, and on the video, one of the expert of GRESB said that GRESB is a marathon. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the slide I showed before when you see the scores going up year over year, right?
Yes.
Just basically give yourself 3 years. That's what we always say. Start low, that's fine. You are approaching those questions. You are making progress. You know that you show that you know how to spell ESG, and then you are on a path of improvement. So that's what GRESB is.
By the way, our congratulations to Olga. Olga is my colleague. We, together with Anait Manasyan and Lili Tadevosyan, we have a registered Green Growth Alliance to advance green building ideas and certification in Armenia. By the way, I just realized, my colleagues, that one of the reasons we don't have that much participation is just in our time zone, it's lunchtime. So people, special thanks to people who linked, because it seems they sacrificed their lunch, especially outside. There is a nice weather. We are close to the end of our discussion. Really very useful. This is the start. I'm sure we will have some inquiries and questions from people later. And the topic is sustainability is growing, honestly. And the data centers are a new kind of, again, new ideas, new kind of infrastructure, and very interesting focus, thanks our colleagues, to have a fresh view to this innovation in our real estate infrastructure development. Armenia is already hosting a lot of, not a lot of, but actually we reportedly already have two. Another large big one is coming. This is special kind of investment in real estate, data centers, related to the development of IT, artificial intelligence, and the new infrastructure. So it's coming. We'll have a special interest. But my last question, regarding to the old traditional residential and commercial real estate assets, what kind of developments we have there? Some of the participants are coming from commercial and real estate development sector. Thank you.
Yeah, so I showed you the questionnaire. So maybe Tom, you can show again the benchmark for development, and